everyone. My name is Audrius Zabotka. I represent INVEGA. It's a nickname of our institution. The full name is Investment and Business Guarantees, Ltd. INVEGA was just a few words about INVEGA, who we are, what we do. INVEGA was founded in 2001, initially as a guarantee agency. We started with the guarantees on the loans issued by the commercial banks. Since the beginning, we already issued almost 4,000 guarantees, and the amount of the loans guaranteed exceeds 400 million euros. As of today, the guarantee portfolio is outstanding guarantee portfolio is around 110 million euros. And let's say if the common practice in Lithuania before INVEGA has started its activity was that companies, if they want to receive the loan, they have to be on the market at least for 2 years. So now, during a year, we provide up to 30% of all guarantees issued to the companies up to 3 years old. So let's say up to 10 to 15% of the companies up to 1 year, 12 months old, and for the companies up to 3 years old, so even up to 30% of all guarantees issued. Actually, I have to say that before the microcrediting scheme that I'm going to present today, we started a financial microcrediting scheme already in 2006 with the national resources, or let's say using the resources which were used the first time as the FARA program in 1993 and 1995. We selected 3 commercial banks to disburse microcredits up to 25,000 euros to the companies, and there was no restriction as for the startups. As a result of this old scheme, which had an amount of resources more than 8 million euros, almost 900 loans, microcredits were granted during the already almost 6 years of practice. And the amount of the loans granted exceeds 18 million euros. So it's much more than the funds were available. As I already mentioned, so for that scheme we use national resources, but the financial crisis has come, and in 2009 we had to find a solution how to finance our programs, instruments, and we end up using European Social Fund resources. Entrepreneurship Promotion Fund was established in 2009 in August, and the resources under this fund, under this measure, are available for the companies till the end of 2018. There was a funding agreement signed between 2 ministries, Ministry of Social Affairs and Ministry of Finance and INVEGA. The total budget of the fund is 15 million euros. These are resources dedicated for microlending for the companies up to 12 years age, and also for the management fee, out of which the trainings for the companies, for the owners of the companies, should be also financed. We ran, because of the requirements, EU requirements and national ones, we ran a public procurement process to select a financial intermediary. As a result of that, we received a proposal from the consortium of 57 credit unions led by the Central Credit Union in Lithuania, and they were selected. And the microcredits are given to the companies on more favorable terms than usually they could receive on the market. Thus, some state aid is involved. So we have de minimis state aid, and because of this, some sectors which are under de minimis, they are restricted. As already mentioned, the target group are the companies up to 12 months old, which are in the market, so really real startups. The target is to grant more than 1,200 microcredits for the companies, for the startups, not more than one microcredit per company. And also, it is a target to train more than 5,000 individuals, entrepreneurs. The credit itself, the fund, provides the financing for the selected financial intermediary, and it finances up to, actually not up to, but 90% of the credit amount. 10% of the credit amount should be added by the financial intermediary, by the credit unions, each credit unions, because the loans are provided by each member of consortium, each credit union. Also, Ministry of Social Affairs, it set a priority group. It's disabled people, unemployed people, young people under 29 years old, and people over 50 years old. And there is a target to provide more than 30% of the trainings and more than 15% of the loans to the priority groups. As a result, so far reached, we were quite successful with the trainings. More than 3,300 entrepreneurs were trained. They passed the trainings. It's already almost 70% of the target. Also, almost 300 loans were disbursed so far. We think it's not so bad because we lost almost 1 year just adjusting the scheme itself, because definitely it was launched first time, it was launched using structural fund resources, and well, it doesn't work so well as we expected in the beginning. We lost 1 year, and now the scheme, the lending is gathering pace. And already, as a result, more than 400 new jobs are created. Just a few words also about a slightly different instrument, a grant scheme, which could be also used in parallel when companies are taking microcredits. That's compensation of interest. Well, because all the lending risk is taken by the financial intermediary, by the credit unions, the requirements set for the companies were a little bit too high. So we had to invent some favorable terms for the companies, for them to become these credits more attractive. And we introduced interest subsidy schemes under which up to 95% of the interest paid by the beneficiary, by the company to the credit union are compensated. And this compensation could not overcome 30% of the loan amount. Also, this is a state aid scheme, interest compensation as a de minimis state aid scheme, and also the sectors, the same sectors which are ineligible under de minimis state aid regulations are restricted. So far, already 80,000 of the interest paid on the loans were compensated for the companies. Okay, I think it's that. Oh, I didn't. Okay. Well, so SWOT analysis. As the financing of the startup, as I mentioned, when INVEGA started its operation in 2001, the common practice was that company has to be in the market for more than 2 years just to receive a credit. So for the startups, crediting, lending was not available. And thus in Lithuania, we needed a solution. So we provided a supply of smart money, not just money that we done in 2006, providing just resource for the commercial banks to provide microcredits, but we provided also smart money. It means that when you provide a grant, a microcredit, also you just can serve this money or supervise the company with the training. So that was, I would say, quite a good solution, at least in the Lithuanian market. And also the companies which are taking microcredit, they could receive a guarantee if they lack collaterals, and also receive compensation of interest. Both these tools, which could be used as a separate instruments, are mitigating the lending risk for the intermediaries. That's why the supply is higher, and the willingness of financial intermediaries to lend to startups is also higher. Well, weaknesses. Well, because we are a state-owned agency, financial institution, we use public resources, both national ones and structural fund resources. And for that, we have to run a hard administration process to encounter state aid amounts or equivalents that companies receive, and also run quite sophisticated sometimes, I would say, public procurement process to select the financial intermediaries. Just in probably next week, we are going to launch the public procurement call to select a financial intermediary to manage venture capital funds. So you can imagine how it could be described the requirements for the financial intermediary to select the pool of individuals to manage venture capital funds. So it's not so easy. And legislative restrictions. Well, in our case, because credit unions were chosen, because it's self-financing commune, we could call, there is a requirement for the membership shares. So in Lithuania, the idea is that members of the loans could be granted just for the members of the credit unions, and the loan amount could not be higher than 10 times of the share amount the member has in the credit union. So it requires some additional capital from the entrepreneur. But this also mitigates the risk, because these shares could be used to repay the last part of the loan granted. Opportunities. Well, first of all, with the national and structural fund resources, we managed to build up a supply of the resources available for financial intermediaries to finance startups. And also, I think with this kind of measure, we provide an opportunity for the unemployed persons to become an entrepreneur, self-employed, versus to be unemployed and depend on the doles. And also we think that financial engineering instruments, which has a repayable nature, change the mindset or has an impact on the mindset of the entrepreneurs. and this is much more efficient way of using state resources. And as we call that, it's better to give a rod to the man instead of giving a fish. Well, and the threats. So in this process, it's very much important to select appropriate financial intermediaries which are committed to financing of startups, because it's slightly different than finance big companies. Not slightly, it's very different than finance big companies, finance the expansion phase of the companies, and so on. Also, the tailor-made instruments or design of the instruments which are in the market, it's very crucial, because you have from one side market demand, from other side the regulations, and because we use structural fund resources, so on top of that we have EU regulations which are, let's say, sometimes not so easy to convert into best market practice. And well, because financial engineering concept at all, it's quite new in the European Union, and well, we are probably one of the first member states using European Social Fund resources for financial engineering measures. It's let's say, it's not so clear how it will be interpreted by the auditors at the end when you will have to declare eligibility of the expenditures of these European Social Fund resources. And we see here some risk, let's say, because the practice is not so clear. So this is more or less, yeah, it is what I want to say. So please ask the questions.
You mentioned about training for entrepreneurs. Could you say something more about these trainings?
There are 6 categories, different categories of the trainings, and one introduction course. So the potential recipients of the microloans, so they have to participate in this introductory course. It's some, let's say, it's compulsory, we could say. But other 6 courses which are related to the legal aspects, to the marketing, to the financial prognosis and so on, personnel and so on, they are not compulsory to receive the microloan. So if your entrepreneur feels that he is strong enough, he can go just directly to the credit union and ask for the loan. Also, the beneficiaries, they receive consultancy from the credit unions. They help them to prepare the business plan. So business plan, it's specially developed, which is standardized, and all 57 credit unions are using the same form, application form, and the business plan. So it's much easier, just and much faster to make a decision.
Should entrepreneurs pay for that trainings?
Sorry?
Should entrepreneurs pay for that trainings and consultancy?
The trainings are free, but now we just stopped this process training. We actually communicated with the consortium that they have to stop the trainings, because the training and the lending targets, they are lacking behind. So we have already, let's say, 70% of the trained people, so that target was, and only 25% of the loans issued. So just to make the balance, we just asked credit unions to provide more consultancy and just stop these public trainings. as you know, because at the end of all the program, we will have to declare the end of 2015, we will have to have all the resources spent in eligible way.
Thank you. You said that the European founded program is under the de minimis regime. The de minimis stands for grants. Since this is not a grant, the loan itself is has to follow the rule, or the interest that you compensate?
Well, because, let's say, the interest rate on these loans are calculated under the formula 3 months Euribor plus 3.5% plus margin. But this is far below the market standards. And we calculate as a de minimis state aid the difference between the reference rate plus 4% and the difference between actual interest rate which is paid under this loan. And we calculate state aid equivalent, and we just report to the de minimis central de minimis register in Lithuania.
So it goes to the difference between the two interests as an amount. It's not the capital.
No.
Okay.
It's slower.
Do you have already a figure of reimbursement rate?
Sorry?
The reimbursement rate, you have already some information?
Reimbursement. Actually, the resource we provide for the financial intermediaries is their risk. And as we collected the data from them, less than 2% of the loans are defaulted. But this is just very beginning of the program, so we still have to wait.
Okay, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.